Welcome to the Life Handmade podcast by Scrapbook.com. I'm your host, Stephanie Foster. On today's episode, we welcome the amazing Heidi Swapp. Heidi is a wife and mother to 5 children, and she's been in the industry for over 20 years. She's a wonderful friend to many of us here at Scrapbook.com and an inspiration to crafters all over the world. Heidi talks today about the importance of scrapbooking, journaling, and picture taking, and she shares some inspiring stories and examples of how scrapbooking and journaling has led to some meaningful bonding experiences with her children and other loved ones. Hi, Heidi. We are so excited to have you here on the podcast today.
Well, this is fun. I'm excited that you guys have a podcast.
It is fun. And I just have to say my little claim to fame with Heidi Swapp. Whenever I hear your name, I say, do you know that I got to scrapbook at her kitchen table like 20 years ago before she...
Has it been 20 years?
It's been close.
Oh
your Chandler home and then your Mesa home. I got to scrapbook in both of those.
I know, those were the good old days.
Those were good. And I just have to say, I don't think I ever finished a page when I was at your house because I would just watch you create and be in awe of the whole process. And you'd be like, I'm just going to rip this paper and I'm going to stitch this one. And then you'd pull out your journaling pen and I'd just watch your handwriting and be in awe. So I've been a big fan for a long time.
Well, it is fun. It feels like when I come to Scrap.com, it's just like coming home. So I love that you're here.
It's so fun. So you actually host your own amazing podcast now called Light the Fight. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So most of my followers will know that about 4.5 years ago, we're recording this in January of 2020, and about 4.5 years ago, we lost a son to suicide, which was, obviously I don't have to say it was devastating. It's hard. It's a horrible thing. And I just realized there was so much I didn't know. And for the 2 years after he passed away, I was just stunned at what had happened and just in shock. And at the same time, I was working with the same therapist that Corey was seeing. And he was working with our families. We were dealing with like PTSD and just processing and grieving and all of this stuff. And I was learning so much. And I would come home from my sessions and I would just write. And then I would get talking to my friends and they would also be learning, and I just realized there's a lot that we don't know that we can do better. In normalizing depression, anxiety, in talking about things that are super stigmatized, and learning how to be more connected parents to our children. Originally I thought it was going to be a podcast about 4 parents who were having teenagers who were struggling with anxiety and depression and suicide. That was really what I thought the podcast was. It has really turned into how to better connect with people that you love, how to strengthen your family relationships. And so it's a real tender topic for me. And I love participating in it. So it's myself and David Kozlowski, who was Corey's therapist. And he is a licensed marriage and family therapist and specializes in working with troubled teens. And he's like the teenage whisperer, really, because he's just really a teenager himself. No, he's not a teenager, but he has taught me so much. And so our podcast is really like this mom who is a freaker outer fundamentally, that I just have wanted to learn how to really connect with my kids better.
It has been life-changing for me. I have listened since the beginning and have loved it and have recommended it to so many of my friends because I think every parent, no matter how old your kids are, can relate to it and benefit from it. Yeah. And the whole thing about connection, you've inspired me because that was the word I chose this year for my word of the year is to connect. So lots of ways that we can connect with ourselves, with others. So maybe for selfish reasons, could you share some ideas or ways in which we can connect with others through our storytelling and through our scrapbooking?
Of course. That's probably my very favorite topic. I've been a scrapbooker forever, and I have always loved photos, and I have always loved being told the story. Like I can remember as a little girl, just, and I've shared this before. My grandfather loved photography, amateur photographer, and only processed his film in slides.
Oh,
which is a little girl, that's a real bummer.
Yeah.
Except for that do you remember when you were little, they had those like slide viewers?
Yes.
I loved that toy. Like
Yes.
I would go to my grandpa's house and I would just want to like look at the slides in the little viewer. And he used to curate slideshows. In fact, in the basement family room, he had like rigged up a hole that went through the wall and a screen that came down. Like how many people have screens that come down, right?
Well, and back then too.
It was really cool because it was really important for him. And we would sit down in that family room and tell stories. Mm-hmm. So you'd put up the photo and then there'd be laughter and storytelling. And I loved that. I was the oldest granddaughter, and then it was just like babies. But that was how I connected to my aunts and uncles. Mm-hmm. That's how I connected to my grandma and grandpa. I loved hearing the stories about how my parents grew up.
Yeah.
I was fascinated. I mostly liked to hear the stories about me.
Mm-hmm. Who doesn't, right?
And, if you talk about storytelling, you talk about connection, those two things just go hand in hand. That's a wonderful way to connect. It's those shared experiences or those stories are true. Our true experiences together is where we can connect. On the podcast, we often talk about like if you're struggling with a child or you're struggling with anybody you're in a relationship with, or let's say that you just know somebody is struggling that you love. A wonderful recommendation is to just text them a picture of the two of you together doing something or some fun memory, something awesome that makes you laugh or that was silly or whatever, and help people remember those good times and the fun times, the things you did together. And there's just an immediate connection.
I love that. So I've got 4 kids from 12 to 18, and we were just on a road trip, and they get grumpy, right? And they get thinking, we don't have this, or I don't have that, and they get negative. And so while we were captured in a car, they couldn't move. I said, let's do our whole year in review, because I had my calendar kind of from last year, and we went through kind of all the highlights and things that we'd done and accomplishments that they'd had. And I think your key word there is they need to remember. We need to remember, because I know, first of all, if I don't write it down, I will forget.
Absolutely. That's like my mantra.
Yeah. And I think with scrapbooks too, with the photos, it brings you back to that place. And I love being able to open up family scrapbooks and show them,
for sure,
look at the things that we did. And it does. I just love the connection that it can bring.
There's a story that I tell that I've told several times that's about my oldest son. And when we first got pregnant, when we were first married, it actually took us a long time to get pregnant. I had a couple miscarriages. I'd had one miscarriage, and it just took a long time and so we were really ready. We were really ready. We were really excited. And I started a journal. It was like I had made like a little teeny journal that I started writing in. And I like doodled on the cover, and I like just started writing about how I felt. And I was really writing to the baby. I was wanting to share like things we were doing. And then I had like my brothers and sisters write, and it looked like notes to him, to the baby. I put like receipts and tags of things that I bought and talked about what what preparations we were making and like all the things that were going on. And then the baby came and I wrote his birth story, which was a little traumatic if I'm being honest. And there were some things with Colton specifically that were hard. He was born with one ear. And so there were some things that we were trying to like figure out, like, and as a new mom, I was, whatever. So I was writing about it, but I was writing about how much I loved this baby, even before I ever met him. And then when you meet that baby, like, you just aren't even, you're not even prepared for how much you love them. And I wrote about that. And I wrote in that journal for about 9 months to a year after he was born. And there's some photos in it, not very many photos, but some photos, more receipts, more little details about what we were doing. And I remember at one point I did spill Diet Coke on it. And so like the last fourth of the pages are like, and I think we did lose some pages to the Diet Coke. But okay, so fast forward, I've got this little book. It gets stashed somewhere in my treasure troves of scrapbooks. And Colton is 13, grouchy, 13-year-old. And I didn't have all the skills that I have now to deal with 13-year-olds. But like I said, the podcast is 20 years too late. Is really my podcast. Yeah. So anyway, we were living in a rental house. The basement was a disaster of like half of our belongings because we're kind of waiting to move into a real, like our house that we'd owned, and we're kind of living out of boxes. And so it was just strewn over this unfinished basement. I remember saying this one day, like, okay, that's it. We are going to clean this basement. And Colton was just kind of the one that was hard for me to motivate, hard for me to get him to do stuff. And I remember giving him the assignment to take a bunch of scrapbooks from cardboard boxes into like plastic boxes, bins, so that when the basement flooded, there's never an if your basement's going to flood. It's when
you were ready.
I wanted those to be ready. And so it was a pretty simple task. Whatever. I'd given everybody tasks, and, the other kids are whining, saying pretty soon the other kids are whining because Colton is sitting in the corner, not doing his job because he'd run across this book.
Oh.
And the complaints went on for about an hour and a half as he sat there and read through the book. And I don't know if he read every page. I think that it was probably an hour or two later. And he came up and he found me, and I was up in his room, like trying to reorganize stuff, working, and he was holding the book, and he's not an overly emotional individual, but he looked at me and with some tears in his eyes, he said, "I didn't know how much you loved me." Oh. And my immediate response was like, "What do you mean? I do everything for you. I cook for you. I pick up your clothes."
Right.
You
think it's obvious, right?
Yeah. But there it was. It was written, and it was history, and it was real. And he couldn't deny that. And I'm here to tell you that there was a little turning point.
Oh,
there. He started to say, "Thank you for me making it lunch." And something happens when people know how much you love them.
Yeah.
And it's, we don't go through our regular day and we're like, "I just admire this and this about you," or "I love this and this about you," like we can do on a scrapbook page, or something that we're writing. And it would be great if we would sit down and tell people how we feel.
Pour out our heart like we would on a page. Yes.
But it's almost better when they get to read it at a time that maybe they need it the most,
Yeah.
another story, just quick story about connecting through photos, is that on the other end of the spectrum, my mom is 70, and for about the last 5 years, she has been dealing with what's called primary progressive aphasia. And it's a disease that attacks the communication part of your brain. And we're at a place in this disease that she can't talk and she can't really understand.
So hard.
She can't write, and she actually can't read. I don't know how much she really understands. I don't know how much she remembers or knows. It is literally the most frustrating thing that I can even imagine.
Oh, I'm sure.
And she also is comfortable in her clothes. She doesn't want new clothes. She doesn't want a new swimsuit. She doesn't want new shoes. And so it's hard to come up with something to give her. But I can make her little scrapbooks full of photos. And every time we're together, I make sure that we take photos so that she knows that she's loved, that she knows she's part of the group, even though she's got this situation happening that's really, really hard. And she just turned 70, and I made her this album, and just watching her, she looked through the album. She was recognizing people. She was remembering moments.
See it.
She knew.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. So it connects with the unconnectable, the uncommunicable scrapbooks, scrapbook pages, stories, the photos. It connects where there's otherwise not a chance.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. But I think that's what scrapbooking comes down to.
For sure.
The best benefit of it. We love it. We love crafting. We love being creative. But when you can connect with someone else on that level through those photos or through those journaling moments or layouts, it's incredible.
For sure.
I love that. So do you have any suggestions for how we can maybe connect through scrapbooking? Those were great examples. Any other tips that maybe are just easy things that people could do through their journaling, or even the photo taking, or just remembering, I think, to take the photo, first of all, because sometimes we've got it
printing. Oh my gosh.
Printing, I think, is key. Yes.
I think that we overcomplicate everything. I'm the queen of overcomplicating things. And if you look at my projects and you look at what I make, I can imagine that I must probably intimidate people who aren't super into it, maybe they want to be, but they're like, I don't have every tool. I don't have every, and I mean, I have access to so much. And so, it's my job to just be alluring.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Yes.
But that does it.
How would you simplify
at the end? So here's an example. I was making samples. We're at the Creativation Show. That's why I'm down here. And I was going through photos, trying to find the perfect photos for the samples that are going to hang on the walls. That are going to sell this product, And Connor, who's my 12-year-old, super tender kid, comes up and he's like, I didn't want to have to give these to you, but you can use these. And I was like, what is it? And he had this in his hand, this stack of just 4x6 photos. And I was like, what's this? And he's like, well, these are just my pictures of me.
Oh.
And at some point, when people were going through photos, he must have just skimmed off the photos of him, his favorite photos of him that he'd found in the big stash that were meaningful to him. And he goes, you can use any of these, but you have to give them back.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And I mean, you guys know I'm a crier, so sorry. But as I'm looking through these photos, I'm realizing this kid needs to feel this love, needs to, and I thought, so really what I should be doing is taking this stack of photos, slapping them into an album that doesn't have to be with the most newest, freshest techniques. It just has to be an album that on every page says, I love you no matter what,
Yes.
over and over.
Yeah. I think that's a good point, that they don't even, He probably doesn't even care that they're
They
not
don't
on
need
a
to be
layout.
chronological.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
They don't need to be cropped perfectly. It does not have to be perfect. And sometimes, that's what we do. Like, I try to sell this. We want people to watch videos. We want them to learn. We want them to try new things. And if that's going to hold you back from telling the stories, then forget it. Just get it on the paper.
Just print the photos too, because the kids they don't ever scroll through it online, but if they have them in hand that they can just look through. And I think printing it out
means the world to them.
Yeah.
He also had pictures of our dog's a puppy, and it was so cute.
Oh, so sweet.
Isn't that interesting? We all love to connect when times were simpler. Even sixth graders want to connect with when their lives were simpler.
Yeah, when they remember again. Well, that is awesome. Tell us about the newest collection that is coming out that you have designed, and maybe where you got inspired for this. I am so excited about this collection.
I just showed Stephanie right when we recorded. I've been thinking a lot about scrapbooking because it's changed. It's changing. And here's the thing, like, I have a planner and I really love my memory planner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is my number one memory keeping priority actually for myself, because I can kind of keep up on it. I actually do it sitting in my bed.
Mm-hmm.
And it represents my daily life. And that's the key where it jogs my memory. So I love planning, right? Then I'm also a journaler.
Mm-hmm.
And journaling is important to me. I don't always like to go back and read on it. Like some things I don't want to relive, but some things I do. And my mom was an avid journaler, and I have loved to read the nice things she wrote about me. Before she got really bad, she transcribed all her journals, and I think she probably dumped some of it. But anyway, journaling is different than scrapbooking. It's different than planning.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some things that happen and some things we need to express and write about that we don't have a photo for, but needs to be written down.
Documented, yep.
And if we feel like all of our documenting is in the planner and there's not enough room to write it, or if we're only doing scrapbooking and there's no place to write this big story or this experience, then what do you do? Does it just get lost? Does it get forgotten? So I think that there's this important place of being a journaler. And then we also have scrapbooking, which is where I think that for me, the photos lead the way to help tell the story. And it's where I can be creative and have fun and use my supplies that I love and really connect with the story through my art. And it's a form of expression for me. It's something that I really, really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So I got thinking about these 3 different styles of documenting. And I realized that I do all 3 of these things. And there's certain aspects of my life that I scrapbook. And there's aspects of my life that I journal. And there's aspects of my life that I put my memory planner, but it's not the same things, And so I kind of realized there needed to be attention given to these 3 different styles. So what's coming out right now is I don't want to call it a system because that just seems so serious, but it's a new style of album and these little notebooks. So it's kind of like what you said is exactly right. It's like a traveler's journal bumped up to like a 8x10 almost. And then we've got these albums that have this really cool binding system that allows you to put these insert notebooks into the albums. And what's really cool is that you could take a scrapbook, insert book, journaling, maybe your Bible study or your scripture study, maybe journaling about what's going on, your memory planning, all into one album. And you really have like a really different, more of a 3-dimensional,
a complete picture really of your life. Because I feel like I have three or four different books going, my to-do list book, and then my planner book, and then, and it brings it all into one.
Because actually all those things contribute to what we want. And that's to connect with our memories, to bring it back.
Oh, it is so beautiful. And it's the perfect size. And I love that they lay flat when you open them.
And you can take it you can take it with you on the road and not worry about it. It's pretty hearty. Filling,
or even take one out at a time if you just want to stick one in your purse for the day or something.
And the paper is thick enough that like the pens don't go through, and there's even some water. You can watercolor on them, and it's a pretty heavy duty, good books.
Oh, and beautiful papers. So this is called Storyline Chapters.
Uh-huh.
So
just think of each book like as a different chapter of your life, or different chapter.
I love it. I can't wait to get my hands on it. So
it's got paper, it's got stickers, it's got washi, it's got all
the beautiful
things.
Stuff.
But I just want people to really honor these different aspects of telling their story.
Mm-hmm. Love it. And then you have one other called Art Walk. Tell us about that.
Which is so fun. It's totally different than anything I've ever done. In fact, we challenged one of the designers on my team to actually paint these backgrounds, and then we scanned them in, and they're beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's so fun. It's just loud and bold and bright, and it's really beautiful. I really love it.
They're so pretty. Such beautiful colors.
And there's also planners, memory planners in the Art Walk category. So that's still a good choice for documenting as well.
Everyone is going to love them. I know this.
Oh, I hope so.
So fun. Okay, well, there's some questions we always ask of all of our guests.
Okay.
So what is your favorite go-to product at the moment?
That's really, really a hard question. My go-to, well, I love to make mini books. So I'll say something stupid like chipboard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love chipboard. I can never have enough chipboard. It's stupid. Right?
What's your favorite thing to do with it?
I love to just make albums. I love to use the cinch. So that's forever.
So making the books.
Yes, I love to make the books. But I will say, another new thing that's coming out is stamping ink that allows you to mink.
Oh.
Mink ink.
Mink ink. Yay.
And I'm pretty excited about it. It's really fun.
So many fun
I'm kind
things.
of obsessed with it right now.
Yes. Okay. What is the most meaningful handmade gift that you have made for someone?
All of them. Every single handmade gift. And here's the truth. I have made a lot of handmade gifts.
I'm sure. There's no better gift because you put your heart and soul into it when you make something.
I don't know. Two of the most special handmade gifts went out to my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. And I just think I was really trying to win them over. Really.
Nothing wrong with that.
I had made my mother-in-law this big denim quilt. So it wasn't even paper crafting, but
that's fine.
It says, she loves Mary Englebright, and it says, life is just a bowl of cherries in felt. Like I hand cut these felt letters. It's adorable. Anyway, she still.
Do you have a picture of that we could link?
Yeah, maybe so.
Okay.
And then when my father-in-law turned 60, he had this huge party. Was it? I can't remember how old it was. 60, 65. Anyway, and he had this big, huge party in Grand Cayman, and I spent some time gathering tribute letters to him, and I made my first gatefold spiral album, like 7 Gypsies style.
Uh-huh.
And I remember having a friend help me bind it, and it was just crazy cool and intricate and unique, and I loved it. I sort of hated giving it away. I have hated giving away every handmade gift.
I've already told my parents and in-laws anything that I've made, like for you, like that,
it needs to come back.
Yeah, I get it eventually.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, but that's neat, and especially filled with all of the memories and sentiments from other people.
Yeah,
that's something that he will cherish forever.
Yeah,
what a great gift. So. Well, thank you, Heidi, for speaking with us today. I could speak with you for hours and hours. And
it's my pleasure.
It has been so fun. So thank you for coming in, and we wish you all the best. We can't wait to see your new line at Scrapbook.com. Thank you for listening today. This was such a wonderful conversation with Heidi, and we're so thankful to her for opening up and sharing these stories with us. We've put links in the show notes to Heidi's Light the Fight podcast, to her new album System, and her mink ink and other Heidi created products. Those are all worth checking out. You can also go to www.scrapbook.com/podcast for more information as well. Scrapbook.com carries over 40,000 unique items and is the #1 online store for paper crafters. When you shop at Scrapbook.com, you'll enjoy award-winning customer service, great prices, a huge selection of products, and super fast shipping. You also benefit from nearly 200,000 real product reviews from crafters like you. Also, make sure to connect and get inspired by other crafters in the Scrapbook.com forum and gallery, and you can even take free online classes too. Be sure to subscribe to the Life Handmade podcast in your favorite podcast app and enjoy our other episodes. Happiness is life handmade.